This is everything you need to know to conduct your own survey. If you want to have a valid survey, the most important thing to remember is to keep it random. Make sure that your survey is random and that you aren't manipulating it in any way to get the answers that you want. You want to make sure that you're staying away from undercoverage, convenient sampling, and creating bias in your survey. Undercoverage. So, undercoverage happens when you don't reach all the areas of the population that you need to make sure that your survey is representing the whole population and not just a part of it. An example of this is surveying during the time of day when a lot of people would be in work, so they might not, be around to answer your question, and then you're missing a huge part of the population. The next thing you want to stay away from is convenience sampling. So, convenience sampling is when you basically just survey um, people that are like right in front of you or places that are easier to get to. So, you don't actually represent the whole population. And then there is bias. So, bias is when you manipulate the survey to be worded in a way that like people will want to answer a certain way. Another common issue that isn't necessarily the surveyor's fault is non-response. So non-response is when someone just doesn't answer your survey or they aren't around to answer your survey. That's just they were chosen for the sample, but they refused to answer, and that's not your problem. There's nothing you can do really about that. You just don't get that person's answer. So after you have sampled your population and you have all your answers from your survey, what do you do next? What do you do with all this information? The next part of our video is exploring data. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the distribution of your data and what that looks like. So distribution um, is usually shown with a curve, and so your curve could be skewed left, skewed right, or normal. So that normal curve is what we just saw on there, um, and now we're going to see a curve that's skewed left and a curve that's skewed right. So whichever direction the tail is where it's skewed because that tail is pulling all of your values whichever way it's pointing. So one graph that you can use to display your data is a dot plot. So dot plot is basically where you have a bar at the bottom that has all your values on it, and then you draw dots, one for each individual, um, whichever value it needs to be above. The next way you can display your data is with a histogram. So a histogram has two axes. One is for frequency and then one is for the numbers. And you would just fill up the bar to as many like ones as you had, as many twos as you had, um, and then you would fill it in. And the bars actually touch on this one, which is what makes it a histogram. The next one is a stem and leaf graph. So this is actually named a stem and leaf graph because it looks like a stem with like a bunch of leaves coming off of it. It's important that you remember that you have to have a key for your stem and leaf graph, and then you would just, however many 17s you had, however many 18s you had, you would just draw that amount of 7 or 8s. So the last one we're going to look at is a box plot. So a box plot is cool because it actually shows you what percentage of your data lies in like the first quartile, the second, or the third, and you can find your interquartile range and see your median in there. So it's a good tool if that's what you're looking for.